So it's day 5 of the working lunch. Thank you very much indeed for your feedback. So today we're going to be looking at the clock and progress tracking, and obviously the calendars and how it works with public holidays and so on. The most important thing is obviously that the timing is correct, and I'm going to explain how all of that works because it's affected by various different things. The type of request, obviously whether it's a SAR or an FOI. With SARs you get a calendar month, but you can extend that to 2 or 3 if it's a very complex or time-consuming one. With FOIs you get 20 working days, roughly speaking, and with some others you get less. There are things like CPDs and CAFCAS and so on, but the principles of how we apply that all seem to work rather well. The different days need to be maintained in your system. I don't think we need to spend time defining them. They are different in Scotland to the UK, to Australia, to America, and the other areas, the other jurisdictions. In terms of the vocabulary that's going to come in today, clearly this is one of the more multi-threaded areas, the clock. So you've got the request status, and there are some statuses like clarifying which stop or pause the clock, and there are some statuses during which it's running and some which obviously close it. The status type, as we've just said, will determine how long it takes. FOIs and EIRs being 20 working days, and calendar months for SARs. The reviews and appeals have their own clocks, and we'll be dealing with that in the reviews and appeals section when we get to that. And obviously we're going to be looking at the alerts that you get. So that's the main kind of vocab we're going to be meeting today. I just thought that this is obviously a user course, but I just thought I'd show you the care to which we go to make sure that your super users and Accelerate support staff can change the calendar for any type of request. Now the text is very small here, but I'll show you live in just a moment. You can see here that for any particular type of request, you can choose whether it goes on the public portal, whether it's an EIA or a DPA or a EIO, whatever. The text color that comes up in reports, which is quite useful, which I'll show you in a moment. Not many people seem to be using that, and I appreciate we didn't evolve over millions of years to look at colors on reports, but they can be very, very useful in looking for outliers. And you can put colors on, things that are getting close to their deadlines, and you can put and so on. So for different types of requests here, you can define the calendar and define whether or not it includes bank holidays or includes weekends. Now, not only that, but there will be various different types of statuses on your system. Now, you may have different ones to this. You probably have different ones to this, but you can decide the order in which they come in the list, whether they're trackable or whether they store, whether they restart or whether they just pause, or whether they start from the beginning or whether they carry on where they were. And obviously, if you decide to disable those and not use them, the ones that were still running under that regime can carry on running. And that goes for the request types as well. So for example, we created new request types on March 25th, whenever it was, 2018, for GDPR. The ones that had started under DPA carried on under DPA. The ones that started in GDPR carried on in GDPR. It's a bit like Las Vegas. So you'll be familiar with this workflow. The idea here is that some of these things can pause. So, when you're waiting for somebody's POID, for example, and they're bringing in their picture ID, you can pause the request and then the clock starts again. And then once it gets cracking, it really gets cracking. With FOI, it's slightly different. You can pause at various different stages because you want to clarify, or you've got to quote them a price for the amount of admin work. So let's have a look at one more slide, and then I'll show you live how these things work. So what we have here is the bank holiday calendar, and the idea of presenting you with this bank holiday calendar is that you can maintain it for your own jurisdiction. Now, in practical terms, although it's your responsibility to maintain it, it's a typical job that would be given to an intern here to be able to help you to do that. So if we just nip over to the live system, which I have lurking around here somewhere. In the live system, if we look at actions bank holidays, you can see that this system is set up for bank holidays in the UK. If it was for Scotland, we would add the 2nd of January 20 and indeed 30th of November. So if I go to January 22, there we go, and we put in the 2nd of January. But if I take away the 24th of December, which of course Scotland don't get, then that comes up, and I could add in the same way the 30th of November, which I'll just do for completeness. So there we go. If I stick November in there, this is now a very mixed up calendar between two countries, but 30th of November. So now we have Scottish dates. Now, in this slide, or in 2 or 3 slides time, you'll see a rather confused job which I've got running, which is, I'm not sure how it's going to behave, but where are we now? Somewhere around, I've got a demo Shire job. There it is. And this job here has been started on, I think, the 24th of November and goes through to the 22nd of December. And the idea is obviously if we were to run that in Scotland, it would go through the 23rd of December. So we'll soon see if that's actually the case, because I've changed the calendar, obviously. We'll get back to that in a moment. So we're on the live system now. The first thing I wanted to show you was reports. And in true Blue Peter fashion, I've got a couple set up. With the next version of reports, you'll be able to draw various graphs. So this is one where we've just said swap numbers. I'd like to see how many are open for different departments. You can see the department names along the bottom there. But if we look at 3 that I've just created this morning for the purposes of this, I've looked at all open requests, and I've put a filter called all open, and I've also put some colors on so that you can see that things that are getting a little bit closer. We'll be doing this in the report builder course. Things that are getting a little bit close to the deadline or are over the deadline go orange. I think that some of these things go purple in this column if they're 3 days from the deadline, but none are. And then what I've done is I've taken those things like request for proof of ID, clarification, things like quoted, and made them a kind of a grey background, and things where the requests are being logged and need something to do. I've got a rather more in-your-face purple colour to remind people that they've got to stop them being logged and move them on to the next stage, which is allocation to members of staff to be able to deal with them. So if we take 10806, which was the one that we were just looking at, and we rerun that, you can see it's jumped to the 23rd. And if I just jump back to a PowerPoint slide, which I did here, and just roll on a couple of slides, you can see here that we're now in Scotland. So this day, so there's 2 more days, or 3 days if you count the 24th there, plus these days here. So there's another 5, 10, 15. So you can see it ends on the 23rd there, whereas this was the UK slide, which ended on the 22nd. So that's what I mean by things being a little bit confused there. But because I have changed this live one here, you can see that that ends on the 23rd just there, which is why I popped this calendar up. Do always check the clock with the calendar now and again. I think we've had 1 issue in 17 years that we've had to deal with. So that's the calendar, and of course down here you've got the statuses which determine whether or not it stops or not. If I was to take this job here, which is running, obviously if I go back to it, from the report. You know, if you put a unique ID in here, it automatically creates a link to take you to jobs from reports. If I take that back and if I've got the right level of authority, I can change this backwards. So I could change it, for example, to the previous day if it had come in a little bit late. But what I wanted to show you was the audit data. So as you're going through the clock, you can see who's made what changes at what time. So you can see all of those changes. Most of them are actually made by admin because I'm doing these demos as admin. But if I was to go back to that and put something in, like move it from, I don't know, add an exemption, or just go from logged to, here we go, allocated or something, acknowledgement sent, let's say, and save, then this audit log, if I refresh it here and add the fact that it's gone from logged to acknowledgements saved, and it was done by this guy, administrator, which is obviously who I'm logged in as you can see up here. So just to summarize, as you change the different statuses, clearly the clock will be running or paused or stopped. Now, the most obvious one is there will be something like sent. Where are we now? Somewhere like here, there will be, and different people have different things. Some people say closed, some people say finished, some people say sent response. So somewhere here, there must be somewhere. Do you know, I can't see it. Public interest. Sorry, that must be the closed. There we are. So if I was to say closed here, it would stick a date in here, a closed date. But what I was looking for was something more like clarification requested. There we are. So if I go to clarification requested and hit save, not only will that status once again be in the audit log, but also if I refresh this report here, then 1086 here will go to the new status. So if I do that, then you can see actually it's got to acknowledgement sent, so I need to hit save on this job. Clearly, there we go. So now it'll go to clarification requested, one of those grey ones, because obviously the clock has stopped. Then it'll say stopped, and that will stay at 20 days for some time until I go back in and change it, obviously. So the next thing I was going to show you, and forgive me, I can't remember where these are on the PowerPoint slides, but I will cover all this live and then we'll check it off on the PowerPoint slide to make sure that I've delivered all of the content, is I've got an example here of Edinburgh's triggers, so we can show you what happens behind the scenes. Now, if I was to look at another authority's triggers, there may be different names to the alerts, and there could be more or less, but you'll be able to guess from these triggers what they all do. But if you're interested, if I was to click on something like DPA 5-day reminder, for example, let's just go and have a look at that one here. You can see, and the reason one of the many reasons we do this ourselves is because this interface is dreadful, but also we've got things like edit next to remove. So we have so this is the text that we'd have to change. This isn't an editing box, it's HTML text, and the actual mail merge fields, which you can see down here, go into it. And then if we go back to those trigger templates, this is the main reason that we have to set them up ourselves. It's because it's certainly over my pay grade. But if you look at any of these, where are we? View triggers. If you look at any of these triggers, and if we look at that one, for example, if you look at the code, that's why a programmer has to set it up, because they've got to accurately define not just the mail merge fields, and but also the event when that trigger arrives. And then there's some complex stuff to stop the same trigger going out twice if you change the date of something back. We also have a schedule of this customer's triggers, which ones are going to go out next, and we can see if something is wrong. These ones have been not valid for some reason or another, and they will have been, maybe there's no email for the person or whatever. You can also see the communication history, and obviously We can then click on details if we want to see which one that was. I'm not going to click on anything that looks a little bit like SARI or children-y, but if I look at something like this one here, then there's no private data, and you can see how we can help to debug the triggers and so on there. So that's triggerware. This reporting view that you're looking at is one of the later reporting views that we've got, but I think most of you will be able to pick these fields and create these reports on the fly, and we'll be looking at that and looking at colors and graphs and various things when we get round to it, when it comes up in the schedule. So going back to the PowerPoint slides, I'll just make sure that I haven't missed anything. I'm guessing you're all familiar with the bank holidays and how to add them in for your jurisdiction. You're probably familiar with this when you come to review a, I frequently go and look at our support items to find out what happened, especially if a customer says, hey, I logged this request with you and I didn't hear anything. So the audit trails are a really good thing for training staff. One of the most important things, though, in terms of the clock is that we have various dashboards, and those dashboards already change color. And we've now got a new dashboard technology, which we're trying on a couple of sites, which gives you some of the same facilities as Report Builder, but also allows you to edit things in the dashboard. So that's coming along soon. We're going to be experimenting with that on 1 or 2 sites in the next 2-3 months. But the idea here of these dashboards with which you'll be familiar is you can flip between, as we showed in the last session, between an activity dashboard and a job dashboard, an IR dashboard. But you can also get various different colors which come up according to how many days you've got left to go, how many activities have been completed, and so on. There is a way to stick your favorite report in a dashboard as well, and we've done that for a couple of people, because you can see that you can decide on what columns are here and what you want to see. The only thing you can't do with Report Builder at the moment, and I keep trying to get it done because I would like it on my own support ones, is you can't. So you can color that and say, if it's 5 days to go, I'd like it to go orange, and if it's 3 days to go, I want it to go red with flashing yellow or whatever. But you can't say, show me everything which is still running, and that 20-day figure there is bigger than that figure there, but not clarification ones. So you can't do multi-column algorithms to make things go red, and that's why a programmer would do those in dashboards. So the clock's running all the time, and within reports you can get the duration, how many days you've got, you can decide to color them, you can say how many days have run so far, and obviously if it's colored gray, the explanation is the reason that it's such a big number there is the customer hasn't come back and clarified what they meant by their request. We did that, and we've done checking examples. And once again, this recording will be on the website for the courses for those of your colleagues who weren't able to attend very soon. And once again, thank you very much for your business. Please recommend us. Bye-bye.